All right, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Reeves here with you. I'm not really sure what to call this show as far as the date and time. I guess we could call it, the Wednesday into Thursday edition, the Wednesday Thursday, or Wednesday Thursday combo show. I don't know. Point is, I'm pre-recording this because, well, as some of you probably know, we were short on our operating costs of the first of the month, so that's put us short here now at this point of the month. We've had to be without internet for a day or two. We're only like about $40 short at this point, so I'm sure it'll be back up by tomorrow. But my point is, I didn't want to get behind on the shows because I had, stuff I wanted to talk about. So I figured, well, I could go ahead and pre-record at least one of the shows and then upload it later. And that's what I'm doing here. So that's what we're going to do. I'll just, I just figured, well, okay, I can at least, I have electricity. At least I can do a show, pre-record it, and then put it up later because I have at least 3 days worth of material here, and I don't want to get behind. So, but we have gotten some in, and I'm confident by tomorrow we'll have it all. The rest of it. So, just be patient with us, and if you haven't contributed, please go and do so. Get a subscription to the archives, buy some downloads from the download shop, make a donation at the website, whatever you can do, pitch in. Thanks to those people who have contributed, and we had some other people who've said they're going to contribute, haven't yet. So we should have enough to cover it. So just if you haven't, please do so, because again, once we do have enough to cover it, it's going to leave us at zero again. So any help that we can get will definitely be good. That way, we're not sitting at absolute zero. That's just been the problem. We haven't had. It just, if we sometimes we'll have a little bit of a war chest, and we haven't had a war chest to work with in a while because literally everything that we've gotten in has been going right back out for operating costs and of course to get the new studio going and everything too. We only made about $1,000 off of the Spellcaster so far. And all that we made from the initial sales went to the to getting the new studio, the new place, and all this stuff set up. So we are having a fundraiser right now for Volume 2. We only need $1,800 for that film. So if you want to go and contribute to that, you can. If we get all the money, the sooner we get it all, the sooner the film's going to be out. If we get all that in, we can we'll be able to get the film out. My goal is to get it out for the end of the year, probably sometime around Christmas or so. So the good thing is it won't take nearly as long as the last film because all the research has been done, so I just have to do the writing and the editing and all that stuff. So it won't take nearly as long, and that was always my goal, was to release Volume 1 and Volume 2 pretty much right on top of each other, because next year my goal is for 2017 is to get Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 3 done and the Anunnaki the movie done. So I want to stay on track with all of that, and we can't do it without your help. That's just that's the fact of the matter. And so thank you to everybody out there who has contributed. If you want to contribute to our not Lost Secrets, but Spellcasters Volume 2, we've got a lot of great perks in there. If you donate $100, you get a download from, this time what we're going to have a separate private server for downloads. Last time it was a clusterfuck because we had people I sent all the links to the downloads out because I figured not everybody would check their email all at once or whatever. Well, I was wrong about that. We crashed you guys crashed the entire fucking payloads. So we're kind of proud of that, actually, though. That says something. I think that says something. But literally, their whole, when I say their whole entire servers, I don't just mean the servers that serve out the downloads, folks. Their whole fucking website went down. That was us that did that. So my point is, this time, to alleviate that from happening, I'll have downloads. I'll have the downloads up in the download shop as per usual, but I'll have a separate download location, private server download location for people who who pre-order the download or who contribute here to the fundraiser for this. So you'll get it. So if you donate $100, you'll get a private download and your name in the special thanks credits, or a name of your choice. A lot of people don't want their real names in the films or whatever, so you can just pick a fake name, whatever you want. If you donate $200, you'll get a private download, your name in the thanks credits, in a DVD. If you donate $500 or more, you'll get all of the above, plus a signed DVD and $500 in minerals, crystals and stuff from Let There Be Rocks. And if you donate $1,000, now this would really help. If we could get one person to come in at the executive producer level at $1,000, pretty confident we can get the rest. If you donate $1,000, you'll get all the above, plus your name in the executive producer credits in the film, a signed DVD or Blu-ray of the film, and $1,000 worth of minerals from Let There Be Rocks, and a 30-minute Skype session with yours truly. So this film is going to be... It's going to be quite different from Volume 1, but and it's going to get into a lot of things I've wanted, and people have wanted to hear me discuss for a long time. And we're going to be naming some names and connecting some dots that literally nobody is putting out. I mean, I've taken the information I've put together and I've done searches on it and looked to see if anybody else out there has put this together, because oftentimes that's the case. Oftentimes with a lot of the stuff that is in these films, maybe it hasn't had a movie made about it, or maybe the information hasn't been prominently brought out. But a lot of times, a lot of the information has been out there before in some way, shape, or form. Folks, that's not the case with this film. The stuff that I have researched and put together, and the dots I've connected, and the evidence that I have to present in this film has never been put out. That's not a claim. That's not hyperbole. It is fact. And that's what makes me so scared. So you definitely want to support this film. And get yourself a great perk, too, while you're at it. I've got several things. I've got some stuff that listeners want me to talk about. I'm not going to get into that on this show, but I'll get into on some of the next shows, because it'll probably take up the whole shows to do it. So, but I wanted to go back and talk about what we talked about in the last show. We were talking about Polybius. And if you didn't hear that show, then you need to go back and listen to the previous show before you hear this one, so you'll know where, you'll be up to speed and all that. Somebody left a comment on the video on YouTube, and I really, normally I wouldn't, well, I'm not saying normally I wouldn't encourage it. Yeah, I probably would encourage this, but I haven't really had many opportunities to do it. But I want to give you the opportunity to go in, and I know this person, I'm sure they mean well, but they're just clueless. And I think you folks that know better and have the facts should go and just rape the comments on this. This guy says, Josh, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I'm 42, and the Polybius game would have been right in my wheelhouse as far as my age and playing video games in arcades, but I never remember seeing it back in the day. Well, I mean, come on. I grew up around Dallas. There's things that have happened here and happen here all the time that I've never heard about, or didn't see. I mean, it happens. You're not going to see everything that goes down no matter where you live. That's not to say it wasn't there, just saying that's interesting. But the Simpsons creator, Matt Groening, I don't remember how you say his name, Greening, Matt Groening is from Portland as well. And my assumption is probably why the Simpsons had the Polybius game in it. Wrong. Matt Groening is in his early 60s now and probably would have heard of the game, while probably even some of the rumors, stories that come along with it. I'm a huge Simpsons fan, and while I've been researching a lot, not all the same subjects as you, I really don't think the Simpsons are in with the government in any way. The Simpsons makes fun of the government more than any other show out there, including shows like South Park. Not saying I know for sure, but I've seen almost every show, and if something stunk, my radar would be going off. Well, buddy, you haven't been paying as fucking much attention as you should have been, and I want you listeners who know the facts on this to go and rape it. I mean, are you kidding me? The Simpsons has been one of their favorite predictive programming shows forever. You've never seen the Bart Simpson the poster? They were dropping hints about 9/11 with the Twin Towers with a 9 and 11 on it prior to 9/11 happening. Not to mention that the Simpsons is on the same network as the X-Files spinoff show The Lone Gunman was on prior to 9/11, where in the pilot episode you had the whole thing with them hijacking airliners flying by remote control into the World Trade Center? Come on. Not to mention, as I mentioned before, several of the people on the show and it's of being Bohemian Grove members and all the stuff all the program they've been putting in that show for years. Someone else pointed out that if you look at that episode I was talking about Bart in the arcade, and I didn't pick this up, so thank you to our listener who pointed this out. Good eye there, buddy. Pointed out that if you look closely at the Polybius game next to Bart, it actually says property of U.S. government on the game machine. So I'll give you. Let's just say for a minute, maybe you're right. Maybe it's all just a coincidence, that and the other. Okay. Those of you who know me and know my level of research and know that I won't let that go quietly into the night. Let me throw a couple of more things at you, buddy, that I didn't mention in the previous show. But let me tell you, you tell me if you can just simply write this off as coincidence, okay? Prior to The Simpsons ever being made, okay, I mentioned the other night, and I need to clarify something. I mentioned the game, 2 games, Star Castle and Tempest. Now, Tempest, there are some people who have said that Polybius was basically the precursor to Tempest. That's actually kind of not correct. Here's, from my research, more of what it is. I believe Tempest was actually where I think that Polybius was the test, and that Tempest was the game where they actually put it in working use. And I remember, because I was, when I was a kid, man, growing up, I mean, I was like a savant on video games. And I was born and kind of was growing up as a kid right as the first game systems were coming out. And my family members and stuff, everybody was into video games. So I was around video games from the time I was a little kid, 1 or 2 or 3 years old. I mean, I can remember being 3 and playing. I mean, my grandparents had like an Odyssey 2, which is one of the very early video game systems. I remember the little wood grain Pong that you would plug into the TV. It was just it didn't have a cartridge or anything. It was just Pong. It was all it was a console with Pong with a 2 little paddle controller. I remember that. Of course, the Atari 2600. My parents used to take me. They'd go bowling and stuff, and I was like a savant on like pinball machines when I was a little bitty kid. And video games were just always. I quit playing video games. Somewhere in the last decade, sometime around the time that Half-Life 2 came out. I waited so long for Half-Life 2 to come out, and I was able to get my hands on the game. I downloaded it like a month and a half or so before it actually was in the stores. And I beat this is just my all-time gaming crown for me. I beat the game Half-Life 2 before it was even available to buy in a store. And it was such an epic game, and I was really starting to get into my research mode and all that stuff at that point. And I retired after that. I said, that's it. I'm done. Because it was a great game, and I just loved it. And I was just like, well, that's it for me. I'd played games my whole life, and I was like, I'm done playing video games. And I did. That was over 10 years ago. I was like 2005. So I've been retired from video games, but the early stuff, man, I was all about it. I mean, I've got pictures of like my 6th birthday, Pac-Man birthday. I mean, I was always all about going to the arcade and, going to the pizza place. That was one of my favorite memories when I was a kid, is going to the pizza place on Friday night, and parents loved it because they served beer and, they had games. The kids would just go and play games. I remember I just loved games. But my point is, the Tempest game, there was something about it. And when you're a kid, you have more of a heightened sense of awareness and it kind of burns out of you after you get older. There was always something about the Tempest game that creeped me out. First off, it was really hard. I didn't like it. I was intrigued by it. The crazy thing about the Tempest game is I was always intrigued by it. I was always drawn to it. But it was really creepy. And some of the early versions had this the later versions had kind of a wood panel, but some of the early versions had this very bright painted side thing on it. And I remember it being a difficult game, and I didn't get it, and I wasn't very good at it, but I was always drawn to it. But there was always something about it that gave me like a creepy vibe. But from best I can see is that game was where they actually put what they were trying to do, the subliminals and all that. By the way, I mentioned that somebody had leaked a ROM or something from Polybius. Let me be clear. If you go and look that up on YouTube or something, that's not the actual game. That's a recreation. No one's. I don't think anybody's actually even ever seen the actual ROM. People have recreated it. I don't know what they base their recreations on, but if you see these videos on YouTube, that's not the actual game or the actual gameplay. That's something some people have recreated. So the validity of those are in question. But going back to the Simpsons thing, I want you to tell me if you think this is a coincidence. So this game, Tempest, has made some very strange appearances in films, and it made very strange appearances in films just within a couple of years of after these games originally, Polybius supposedly making their appearance in Oregon. And in 1980, I think it was 84, there was a movie that came out called, it was Twilight Zone, the movie. I don't know if you ever saw that. If you didn't, go back and watch it. About half of it's good. I like the last two. It's one of those, multiple. Steven Spielberg does one. It's got 4 different directors. I think Jonathan Landis, Steven Spielberg. But it's famous because I think it was Vic Morrow, the actor. He's like this racist. He's pissed off. And he's goddamn Jews and niggers taking my job and Jews, and he's just mouthing off in this bar. And Stephen Williams, I think the actor, he's in there. He's like, "Hey, honky, you got a problem?" He's just talking shit, and his friends are like, "Yeah, pipe down, dude, pipe down." And he like walks outside, and like he winds up in Nazi Germany, and then he winds up getting chased by the Klan and all this. Well, he actually the reason that section always was like this just didn't end right. Well, the reason it didn't end right is because they had to kind of like it was supposed to have a different ending. But what happened is while they were filming it, they had like two, it was supposed to be like the Vietnam scene, I think is the last one. There was supposed to be a helicopter scene. And they were using this helicopter, bringing this helicopter down. They had a pyrotechnic go off. It was a freak accident. And it went off too much, and it blew up the bottom and hit the helicopter, and it came down and it crushed the 2 kids and chopped Vic Morrow, the actor who's in that scene, decapitated him, killed him instantly. So that movie was already strange, had with that death surrounding it and stuff like that. But there's I think it's the third, it's the third scene in there. It's about this little boy with he's got like telekinesis powers, psychokinesis powers. Very much like what they were trying to find through the research, through MK Ultra and the remote viewing and stuff. But this little kid's like, basically whatever he wishes for, he just thinks it happens. And it starts out, this part of the movie starts out in this little cafe. And what is this boy doing? He's playing Tempest, right? Well, guess who else is in this scene who plays his sister in the movie? He sends her into the cartoon, and she gets eaten in the cartoon. It's fucking creepy. Well, that girl, his sister, was none other than Nancy Cartwright. Nancy Cartwright is the voice of Bart Simpson. What else is Nancy Cartwright? Nancy Cartwright is a prominent Scientologist. She's done voiceover work for Scientology. She's given donated millions and millions, over $10 million to Scientology. Okay, that's just a coincidence. Well, I talked about Maximum Overdrive. Remember that? And I talked about Star Castle and how Star Castle was another one of these games. And in that movie, it actually had some stuff that was supposedly taken from Polybius. Well, who stars in that movie? Who stars in Maximum Overdrive? Yeardley Smith. Yeardley Smith. Yeardley Smith does the voice of Lisa Simpson. Also, and that movie came out in like 86, I think, but in 84 was when Twilight Zone, the movie, came out. And also Rush, one of my favorite bands of all time, the band Rush, and their video for their song Subdivisions. In the video for the song Subdivisions, it depicts a guy who's kind of an outcast, kind of a nerd, and it prominently has the game Tempest, him playing the Tempest. Now, the reason that's important is because there has been a lot of rumors for many, many years that Neil Peart, the drummer for Rush, has been involved in basically in remote viewing stuff. Basically, he's used as a channeler. That's been the rumors. He's been involved in some MK Ultra type stuff. I mean, there's not a lot of proof on it, but boy, there is a lot of connecting evidence, a lot of strange stuff that doesn't seem right. Especially when you look into Polybius and how that reference of that goes back to Roman days, and then you look at, I mean, it's a reference to Rome. Look up the term Polybius and look at what it means. And then he's got this strange handler guy who works for him, Neil Peart does, who, like, if you try to get close to him or talk to him, the handler guy jumps in front of him. He's an ex-military Israeli. I think he was former Mossad. This guy's got some serious crazy connections, and I've seen him at their concerts before. He wears a shirt that says Praetorian on it. Now, if you know that's the Praetorian Guard. Again, another reference to Rome. So here we are pre-Simpsons, and we have two different Hollywood movies, one with a prominent Scientologist in it that has Tempest, then another movie with the other person, Bart and Lisa Simpson. The voices of those two characters happen to be in two separate movies that had these games that are linked to Polybius in it prior to The Simpsons. And then The Simpsons comes out, and it has, Bohemian Grove members in its cast and crew and all this predictive program. They even had an episode that had Henry Kissinger in it. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, if you don't see how The Simpsons has been used and has been a tool for this stuff for a very long time, you need to do some more looking into it. But, I mean, I personally, from my research, I don't think it's a coincidence that those connections to those people are there in those movies. Very, very interesting stuff. But yeah, I just can't believe anybody would defend, I mean, no offense to this person. He's probably going to be butthurt after he hears this show. But I mean, literally, man, just look farther into it. There's so much evidence. I know there's lots of people out there that will back me up. So, leave comments on that last show on YouTube and let this guy know. But I mean, look at the history of Fox. I mean, look how many propaganda and programming shows have been on there. I mean, I was a huge fan of the original X-Files, but I was never ignorant of the fact. I watched that show from the very first episode all the way to the last episode as they were coming out. And I've probably watched through, this will tell you something, I've probably watched through the original series. God, I've probably watched every episode 20 times, maybe more. But the reboot that they did last year with the new episodes, I watched through those once. What does that tell you? Because those were even worse as far as the programming and propaganda in the episodes were. They was just terrible. I mean, I was glad to see some new X-Files, but man, it just was not. I liked the first episode. I think the first one was the best. They were pretty much all downhill after that. But and it was stupid because they built us up with this first great episode, and they should have built off that first episode. And somehow, I don't know for whatever reason, the X-Files producers got it in their minds that the fans want those weird creature episodes. Dude, myself and all the hardcore, true X-Files fans want the alien episodes, not the fucking creepy monster. Those were the stupidest ones. But I saw interviews with the creators and stuff before that came out. And, oh, well, the fans have told us they want the creepy monster, so we're going to focus more on that. Like, what? That's not what people want at all. People want the alien stuff. But like I said, I mean, from that show to, 24. Oh, my God, the propaganda on that. I mean, we're talking about the channel that brought you American Idol. I mean, so many. Now they've got that show Lucifer, which I discussed in my Secret Messages 1 and 2 film with the Bowie stuff. I mean, you can even go back to a show like Married with Children. I mean, Married with Children, I loved that show when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, but let's call a spade a spade. That was another one of those shows that was designed to program people towards, always portray men as the dumbass idiots, and they portray women as these, floozy airheads. Family Guy. I mean, how much crap has been put in Family Guy? American Dad. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, I'm sorry that you're from Portland and you feel a connection to your fellow Oregonites. Is that what they call them? Oregonians? With The Simpsons. But the fact of the matter is, any researcher or anybody worth their weight in salt that's looked into any of this stuff for any amount of time will tell you that The Simpsons absolutely has been used for programming and absolutely is a part of it. And to deny that, I'm sorry. You need to quit. You need to keep doing your research. Take off those rose-colored glasses, buddy. Well, I just got done watching. I know everybody's been waiting to hear my review on this, and I got one for you. I just recently finished watching the new Louis Theroux My Scientology movie documentary. The most recent interview that I was on with Nick Spiro on his Circus Maximus show, he asked me what I thought, how I thought this documentary was going to be, and I'm happy to report that pretty much I think 100% of what I said on his show about that documentary actually ended up being true. I talked a lot about Going Clear when it came out. And boy, oh boy, I tell you what, Going Clear is like compared to My Scientology movie, Going Clear is like the best documentary you've ever seen in your life compared to this one. I mean, I didn't think it could be worse. I mean, look, I stand by everything I said about Going Clear, but at least with that one, maybe they didn't put all the important information in there, and of course they didn't. But at least there was some. I mean, this My Scientology movie, I mean, the whole thing, I just kept waiting, going, when is the documentary going to start? Because the whole thing was essentially nothing but Louis Theroux going out and trespassing on Scientology property and getting chased off by Scientologists, and them auditioning actors to play David Miscavige and Tom Cruise and whatnot in recreations for things that happened. That literally was like the entire movie. And I had some suspicions before, but my suspicions are absolutely 100% in my mind verified after this. I think Louis Theroux himself is a Scientologist. Point fucking blank. And again, as I stated, who put out Going Clear? HBO. Who put out My Scientology movie, Louis Theroux? BBC. Well, you know what BBC stands for, don't you? It ain't British Broadcasting Company. If you don't know what BBC means, I'll let you figure it out on your own. I'll give you a hint. Probably, I think that's what Louis Theroux has been sucking on, to be honest with you. Do I still have I wish I still had that effect. I don't know if I do or not. Let me look. Give me a second here. No, I don't think I do. I was looking to see if I still had the suck Satan's cock voice thing going, but I don't think I do. Suck Satan's cock. I don't think I have it anymore. Remember I used to do that all the time? Well, anyway, regardless of that, yeah, I mean, this really, he keeps saying, "Oh, I wonder how they knew we were shooting these scenes." And Louis Theroux's like, "Oh, we must have a mole or something." Yeah, you motherfucker. I saw an interview with him and Joe Rogan, and they were both kind of, saying kind of positive things about Scientology, and I'm convinced. I'm convinced 100% that Louis Theroux guy is a Scientologist now after watching this. But he had Marty Rathbun in it. If you saw Going Clear, you'd be familiar with Marty Rathbun. Marty Rathbun's an interesting character, and he's somebody I've kind of been 50-50 about for a long time because, well, he was number 2, man. He was the number 2 guy in Scientology for 20-something years. I mean, there's one guy in the documentary, the My Scientology movie documentary, that even says Marty Rathbun knows where all the bodies are buried. I mean, that's a true statement. He's since left Scientology. He lives in Texas now. I don't know exactly where, but I've been 50-50 on him for quite some time. I've kind of felt that he might be legitimate, but I've also felt that he was kind of a red herring and somebody who has left the church in order to try and gain information. Sorry. I got this off-kilter floor, and sometimes my chair slides me away from the mic. I've kind of felt that he was somebody who's been allowed. They just don't let the Church of Scientology is not going to let somebody of his knowledge level just walk away. And I've always felt that he has never told all that he knows and probably never will. But boy, oh boy, he's very interesting in this film. And I really feel more about that same way after watching this with him in it, because there's one particular scene in there where they're recreating, he's basically showing them what happens, and they're recreating like an auditing session. And when they're done, they're supposed to get up and like clap and salute, do like a salute to L. Ron, like a big poster of L. Ron. And they don't actually have a poster of L. Ron there. It's just like a big sheet or something, a screen. So, but they're simulating it. And when they say, well, are we going to do this? Are we going to, and he starts freaking out. He's like, no, fuck this. No, I'm out of here. And they were like, well, what's wrong? He's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Because if you guys want to do it, make it like your cult of Louis Theroux or whatever, go ahead, do it. But I don't want any fucking part of this. And he starts getting pissed. And he's like, I'm just not going to participate in this. He's like, I've been there, man. I've done this. I've been in this. I know what this is. I figured out the mousetrap. This is his quote. He says, I figured out the mousetrap. It's mind control, plain and simple. That's what it is. And he storms out of the room. And I went, boy, oh boy, it took him. You see that? Because Marty Rathbun's never, ever said or made any references to the connection, the ties between mind control and Scientology. And it took him getting mad at that situation to let it slip and let it fly. And he does in that movie. And it's very, very telling. And, yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be stuff he's never going to be able to talk about, never going to say, just for, safety concerns alone. But that's not my point. I mean, I get that. If the guy's not saying and not talking about certain things because he's doing that for his own safety, okay. But we have to at least consider the possibility that may not be the only reason why he's doing it, and that he could actually be, somebody who's just being put out there to attract people who are trying to expose Scientology so he can then give information back to the church. I mean, that's how I feel. So I'm about 50-50 on him. But there's another interesting thing. With this film, literally, don't go into watching this movie. If you're going to watch this thing, don't expect there to be any. You're going to walk away with any information or any info about anything that you didn't already know, because it's not it's not an info movie at all. And really, I got to thank them, because it really just makes my film, The Spellcasters, all that more relevant. I mean, can you imagine if I would have? I mean, I could have gone to the Scientology Center over here in Irving, which is a suburb of Dallas. It's where the Dallas Cowboy Stadium used to be. That's where their big headquarters is, which, by the way, is right. The Department of Defense has their electronic surveillance unit. I just found this out a few months ago. Right next to it, right next to the Scientology. Not a coincidence. I could have went over there and got cameras and walked on their property and had them come out and harass. Can you imagine if that would have been my movie? 2 hours of me going out and trespassing on Scientology property and getting told I'm trespassed. I'm trespassing. And there it is. There's my Spellcasters movie. I mean, what the fuck does that prove? Going out look, if you're on somebody's property and you're not supposed to be there, it's trespassing. The fact that they're, an MK Ultra mind control cult has no bearing on the fact that if you go and you trespass on somebody's property, especially in Texas here, where they can just flat shoot your ass. I mean, this is Texas, Bubba. Somebody steps on your property here, ain't supposed to be there. You shoot them and kill them. There ain't a goddamn thing anybody can do about it. That's a fact. So, I mean, I just have a hard time figuring out what going and trespassing on Scientology property proves. What does it prove? It proves nothing. It's a way to fill time and put out a movie that claims to be exposing Scientology, which is just this ass clown wandering around getting people to recreate scenes and stuff of the things that happened with Miscavige and the rest of it. I have to say, though, man, the guy they got to play David Miscavige, holy shit. Somebody needs to really make a real Scientology movie and hire that dude on the spot. This dude, I mean, even Marty Rathbun was like, holy shit. I mean, he was like, dude, you fucking channeled him. You nailed him. He did. Man. I mean, it was literally, it's talking about it's making my hair stand up. I've seen, seriously, Tom Cruise has never given a performance in any movie as good as that guy gave. Not kidding you. I mean, he looked like him. I don't even know how he could have possibly, he had to have been somebody that was in Scientology. They didn't say he was. God damn, he had to have been. Had to have been. He had Miscavige down, dude. And it was even like, you could see that it was visibly shaking Marty Rathbun when this guy was doing his performance. Because Marty was right there with him. He was right there with Miscavige. He was literally his right-hand man. He was his muscle. And you could see that his performance was shaking him up. I mean, he even said it at that was a command performance. It was that was, oh man, unbelievable. But what does it prove? So another one of the scenes is they're recreating that famous interview where Tom Cruise is talking about, oh yeah, SPs, SPs one day we'll look back in the history books at SPs, ha ha ha. And there's a thing where he says, well, it's all about KSM, or KS, not KSM, KSW. It's all about KSW. We got to keep KSW. And KSW means keep Scientology working. I was floored. I had to pause the movie and I was rolling around on the fucking ground, man. That is a huge, huge giveaway, ladies and gentlemen. Go back and read the work of Aleister Crowley. One of the things that Crowley talked about of his initiates and stuff that people like L. Ron Hubbard would have followed and Jack Parsons would have followed, he talks explicitly about the mage, the magi, the magical initiate, and the use of language that has multiple meanings and using anagrams and using words and phraseology that has one meaning on the surface and then to the profane, and then a completely different meaning to other people. So when you hear you hear Tom Cruise say KSW, it's all about KSW, keep Scientology working. One interpretation to the profane could mean that keep Scientology working. Notice how they have an abbreviation for it. It's all about KSW, KSW, keep Scientology working. That doesn't just mean keep Scientology working as in keeping it going. That's what most people and anybody would see that would think. Keep Scientology working means, keep it going, keep it alive, keep it happening. No. When you understand the Crowley guidelines for the use of language in multiple meanings, it all makes sense. Keep Scientology working is a magical, black magical term. What was the name of the ritual that L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons did together? The Babylon working. Now, in magical circles, the term working means in use, in action. It is a word that's applied to the use of magical practices that implies that active black magic is being used and is being perpetrated. So when Tom Cruise there says it's all about KSW, it's all about keep Scientology working, he's saying it's all about keeping the black magic working, keeping that black magic in place. It blew me away. It really did. But other than that, it's a total shit show. I mean, an absolute waste of an hour and a half, or however long it is. Total shit show. And just like, I had that feeling after watching Going Clear, and I know a lot of people did. There's going to be a lot of people that watch Going Clear that are probably not going to, not want to not join Scientology. They're going to want to join it. And boy, this one even more. It proves my point exactly what I said. That these documentaries are being put out. And that's another thing I said on Nick Spiro's show, was that the reason why all of a sudden they're allowing all of this stuff to come out about Scientology is because they're trying to demonize the current regime and apply all of the negative things that we've heard about it to Miscavige and the rest of it, so they can clear the slate, clear the table, and say, okay, yes, those things happened, but that's the old guard. This is the new Scientology. And, of course, I believe that Tom Cruise is going to be the new titular head of Scientology. He's already moved into L. Ron's former residence, the former headquarters of Scientology in England. Tom Cruise lives there now. They're slowly moving him towards the number one position, and that becomes very, very clear. That's how the movie ends. That's how My Scientology movie ends, with basically them saying, oh, this is just a group that got, taken over and they currently have bad management or something like that. That's what he equates it to at the end. I called it before it ever even came out, folks. I'm telling you, this is what's going on. Meanwhile, everyone's trying to ignore my movie. I've made the one documentary this year that actually exposes the true connections to Scientology, to MKUltra, to actual mind control, and it connects that in with Alex Jones and the rest of it, and it's being ignored. I mean, if the media and the mainstream media and the general public at large had any interest in actually exposing Scientology, folks, this movie would be everywhere. It'd be on Netflix. It'd be on iTunes. It'd be shown on TV. It's not. They're ignoring it. They won't put out anything with the information I put in there because they have no interest in actually exposing Scientology at all. Their interest is keeping the people thinking this is just some wacky cult that has bad management, and eventually Tom Cruise will take it over and it'll be all good. This is why they've tried so hard to keep Tom Cruise's image so squeaky clean. When all the gay rumors have been going around for years. And, people have asked me, well, I don't understand why they try to keep it so much a secret that Tom Cruise and John Travolta are gay. I mean, everybody in Hollywood loves gays. You would think they would just be embraced if they came out as gay. If they weren't Scientologists, you'd be right. But that goes back to that old belief, the thing going back to Scientology, which is all hypocritical, I mean, that goes, one of their rules is, can't be homosexual or whatever. So they keep it a secret. Well, Elron's own son was a homosexual and he was murdered. I talk about that in the Spellcasters. And the other thing is drugs. They say, you're not allowed to be on drugs. Well, who was the biggest druggie in Scientology? Elron. Even his own son says in that interview that I read in the Spellcasters, when they ask him in the Penthouse interview, well, what kind of drugs did your dad do? And he says, well, it'd be easier for me to list the ones he didn't do because he pretty much did them all. Same thing with there wasn't supposed to be any people who work for government agencies, FBI, CIA, NSA, NRO, any of the government alphabet agencies. Yet many of the original signators in Scientology were all FBI and OSS and the rest of it. So they have public rules that they try to adhere to for the public's sake, but really they're just a bunch of hypocrites and they don't follow those rules anyway. But that's why they've tried to keep such a tight lid on John Travolta and the rest of it, because, if they came out, they would have to leave the church. So, yeah, I mean, it's an absolute shit show. And again, I love it. I mean, thank you. You guys have just made my movie, The Spellcasters, all the more relevant. And it's fantastic. I just wish we could get the movie out to more people. I need more opportunities to get it out there. I just wish we could get this movie in the hands of some of the people that really want to expose this stuff, and then we could, maybe we could make a difference. I don't know. All right, well, we're going to leave it there, and hopefully we'll be back up and running tomorrow, and we'll be able to upload the show and have another show and all that. Go and contribute at my website, theglobalreality.com, so we can get back up and running, folks. My name's Josh Reeves. We'll see you later. Take care.